I want to quickly go over some properties of real numbers, and you can see them listed here. And I'm just going to read them, and then I'm going to show you a few things about them. So first, we have the commutative property, which with addition means a plus b equals b plus a. With multiplication, that means a times b equals b times a. So that means those operations, you can do it in any order you need to. That's very, very useful. All right, the associative property means that I can group these terms however I want. So a plus b plus c grouped together is the same as a plus b grouped together, and then plus c. And the same with multiplication, a times parentheses bc is the same as parentheses ab times c. So I can multiply in the order that I want to. I can add in the order that I want to as well. Then we have the identities. The additive identity is 0, meaning that a plus 0 and 0 plus a are the same thing. They're just a. So if you add 0, you don't add anything. And if I multiply by 1, then I haven't grown any. So a times 1 is the same as 1 times a, and that's the same as a, and that's true for any real number. Okay, so now we also have inverses, meaning that if I add a and negative a, I get back to my identity, which is 0. And if I multiply a times 1 over a, I get the multiplicative identity, 1. And here I need to make sure that a is not 0 because I can't divide by 0, but for anything other than 0, I can just multiply by its reciprocal and get back to 1. And then the distributive property says that if I have a times a quantity b plus c, so how does multiplication and addition interact? A times b plus c is the same as ab plus ac. And these are the properties of real numbers, and some of them may seem kind of trivial, but they're actually very useful to help clarify a few things. So I want to show you a few points. So for example a, if I have something like this, negative w over z, well, thanks to my properties, I understand that this can mean several things. I could break it up like this, negative w times 1 over z, because remember, the 1 over z, or dividing by z is the same as multiplying by 1 over z. As I like to say, dividing is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Okay, so another thing I could say is that's the same thing as negative w times 1 over z. And this is also the same thing as saying negative 1 over z times w. And I could also say that this is the same thing as w times negative 1 times 1 over z. I can kind of write them in any order I want thanks to these properties of real numbers. And so the properties of real numbers, really what they're useful for is just kind of showing you how you can manipulate expressions, which is very necessary in algebra and sometimes confusing. So for another example, if I had something like this, x squared plus y squared, and I multiply that expression by 1 over x squared plus y squared, well, remember anything a times 1 over a equals 1. So this is 1. And here we need to make sure that x squared plus y squared is not 0, right? If it's not, as long as that's not 0, this is a true statement. So these are just two examples that show you how you can manipulate these. Now in terms of the distributive property, I want to show you a visual that I think will help illustrate the importance of the distributive property. So I'm going to start off with a rectangle, something like this. And I'm going to break this rectangle somewhere like that, okay? And this rectangle is going to have a side length here as a, okay? So that's a across there. And across the top, this is going to be b, and that's going to be a c length, right? So there's a b length, there's the c length, which means then that the length of the entire rectangle has what length? B plus c. Okay, now if I'm trying to think of area, the area of this rectangle, I know that that's length times width, right? So in this case, that would be a times b plus c, right? That's the area of the rectangle. This side times this side. Okay, but now if I think of the area also in terms of the smaller rectangles, well, the smaller rectangle right here has an area of a times b, right? And the larger rectangle has an area of a times c. So the area, if I add those two areas together, the area of this large rectangle then is AB plus AC. And now look what I have. I have the distributive property. A times B plus C equals AB plus AC. And so here's a geometric argument that shows the validity of the distributive property. Understanding these properties of real numbers, what they really do is they just help us have confidence in working with our algebraic expressions. If you have any questions on this, please let me know. I'd be glad to help, and thanks for watching.